One. I do believe we are live.
Live without a net.
Crazily. Completely without a net.
Ooh.
Totally. This is going to be a little interesting. Let's
Not
try
without
how
an
to
internet,
line up.
hopefully.
Well, yeah, exactly. So we're seeing that there, and then we will do this. And no, we can't do that, but we can do this. Oh, and we need to turn something else off. 1 second. I keep forgetting. I need to turn the other thing off.
If we do half a
There
show.
we go. We
Hey
do half a
guys,
show.
you have
Exactly.
audio.
Yeah, totally. All right. So there we go. Just took us a few moments to get everything going, and we'll pause here and just chat amongst ourselves while we wait for chat to come in. Yes, thank you. So,
And let me pick your brain. What have you been up to lately?
well, we've been at Anime USA.
The USA.
Yes, 2018, year 20 for Anime USA.
20? At
20
they're
years.
20 years old today?
Yep,
Wow.
absolutely.
One more year in the legal for...
Mhm. So yeah, pretty exciting. Just double check. That seems okay. So yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've also got. You know, we should actually have this up. That will tell us what's going on. What's
It's always
coming
nice to know what's going on.
Exactly.
What's going on? What's
No, we
going on?
oh,
Don't flag us, YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh.
It's just me performing that song.
Yeah.
We reserve the rights to the word "the."
Yeah,
Anybody who uses the word "the" will get a penalty.
Gosh, it's crazy. So yeah, so we've been at AUSA for the past day.
Yeah.
Got in
And
this
it's only
morning.
Friday.
Yeah.
We're getting in there early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Today was press day. Pretty
I
much.
was impressed with it.
So we were
J-Biz!
going in, doing our thing. Hey, James.
Howdy!
So yeah, we were going in doing interviews today, which was very, very awesome.
We had some really nice interviews.
Yep.
And we might be able to share some, maybe a highlight or so, but the ink is still drying on the videos that we made. So, Game Escape.
Hey, Game Escape.
Howdy. It should be an exciting time, especially when we edit those and get them out to you guys. But conventions are a lot of fun.
So we've got the likes of Lisa Ortiz, Monica Rial, frickin' John Ratzenberger, Jim Cummings, one of the great voice actors of our or any age. You know, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, and everyone. And there was somebody, Karen Hassman.
Strassman.
And there was
Strassman,
Strassman, Strassman. There was somebody else. I'm trying to. Crispin Freeman.
Oh, that guy!
Yeah.
That guy who does all those awesome things. Like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, so many different things.
Itachi in Naruto. Oh golly.
Voice acting mastery, the podcast. If you get a chance, check it out. It's awesome.
Totally. So we have about 40 minutes of stuff with Crispin. And other material there. Now, it's not all our questions.
Yeah.
Basically, we were in a room with an interviewer who was interviewing all these folks. And so it's sort of them responding to more or less generic questions. But there's some fun stuff there. So hopefully those will be appearing here once we get everything going. We were all eating ramen all weekend. We're definitely partaking of such food. So that was AUSA day one for us. We're basically doing interviews, just recording stuff, and then getting a quick lay of the land for the con.
Yeah. So tomorrow you're doing a bunch of panels too.
4 panels tomorrow, and we should be having that.
And some of these are new.
Yes, that is Evan.
I've changed a little bit. I change my look every now and then just to keep everybody on their toes. Thank you for asking. I kind of grew the beard and I parted my hair on the side.
So what was it like being during your trip to Siberia for the...
Well, what can I say? They had us in very deep snow.
Mm-hmm.
It was very cold.
Mm-hmm. And I know we can't talk about the details.
It's a cold storage.
Exactly,
Cold
yes.
storage.
But which three-letter acronym organization were you
It was
working
not
with?
KBG.
Okay, all right.
Maybe
You know it's not that.
KBG? No,
Right.
no, KBG.
Ah, KBG,
Yeah,
yes. KBG. Different
Not
thing.
KBS, the Korean Broadcast.
Yeah, different thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
So so we're here doing AUSA,
Also,
and
that's AUSA, right?
that's it.
AUSA, which is funny because AUSA is also a government expo.
Oh,
So when I search AUSA, that's usually what comes up first, and so I'm always, oh crap, that's not it. Anime USA, and this is my verbal, non-verbal. I'm typing.
And they had a problem for a while because they didn't have AnimeUSA.com. Like some
I
like
bought it
retail
before anybody.
website. Yeah, some retail website had AnimeUSA.com for a couple of years. I think they finally got it. It's like, but yeah, I didn't notice anything particularly different this year than prior years.
Well, they have one or two things that are different so far that I've noticed. There was one thing that stuck out of my mind, and I think every convention should copy this. They have a section of one of the rooms. So quite frequently you'll have like 3 or 4 different simultaneous tracks of events going on: an education track, a video track, a panel track, a guest track, autograph track, cosplay track, makers track. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of simultaneous things going on. This year they have one room where they're going to have a flea market.
Yes.
They are inviting everybody to bring, let's say you have old anime or a duplicate of something, or just different tchotchke model stuff. Whatever you've picked up that you're like, okay, well, maybe I can trade this or sell this. Or I want to see how that goes. This is the first time they're doing it. I've never heard of any other conventions doing it, but it's a great idea because quite often we'll go out and, oh, wait, I picked this up at the yard sale. I've already seen it. Maybe I could give it to somebody who likes it, but, hey, I could trade it for something with somebody else who's interested.
Totally.
I have to tell you, I'm a little bit ashamed. On 1 or 2 occasions, I have bought an anime because it looked interesting. And then I realized, wait, I bought it because it was interesting, but I already have it at home. That's why it looked interesting. Now I have 2 copies. I feel like a dumb.
Never done that before. Nope, never done that.
So I want to pass it on to the next person, but I don't want to throw it away. I mean, that would be wasteful. There's so many people who love anime, so
And it's tough getting rid of that stuff online because you go on eBay, and depending on what day of the week it is, hey,
howdy.
There may be somebody on eBay who wants it that week, and there may not. So I put stuff up there that sold really well 3 months ago, but when I put it up on there, I get no bids because those collectors don't happen to be checking at this point.
I've got a Craigslist and saw I've seen people who are getting rid of their whole collection. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is great, but what percentage of people are going to look on Craigslist at that day? They're not going to get a great return always. But at an anime convention, you have people who are interested. It's a market that would be great.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll catch on with other cons because it's a great idea and it doesn't take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
We have to see how this one goes though. So there'll probably be some learning curves of we have to make sure that nobody's selling bootlegs or something like that. But when you think about all the different models and keychains and figurines, and
I'll be curious to see how it works because how do you establish fair trade value for things?
Pay it forward. All my stuff on my table is free. Good karma only.
Could be. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, I would love that idea, and especially at these cons when you have 20 different rooms, and it's like, yeah, we can find 2 hours in a room somewhere on a Sunday.
Yeah,
it totally makes sense.
Excuse me, guys, I'm eating. The con had us running around, going to a lot of different spots, and it was really exciting. This particular con is at a hotel that has several different layers. you can look through atriums and see a layer above, a layer below, and people riding escalators up and down. You can see people eating across the way. You can see people who are in cosplay going from point A to point B. You can see registration. You can see people dancing. It's kind of cool because there's so many great visual spaces just to watch people. And the people that you see, the cosplayers are incredible. So, and Brent has such a great knowledge of all these different shows. He's like, oh, you're from this and such show. And I'm like, I knew that one.
Well, what's frustrating is you'll do that, and somebody else will go by, and you'll be like, "You're from." I can see it in my head.
I'm the doorkeeper for this hotel, sir.
Where is it? Yeah. No, it's like I can see your character. I know what the show is, but what the heck was it named?
That's what I do a lot.
Yeah.
Like, nice costume. I know I've seen it somewhere in one of the shows that I watch.
There was one. I'm
can't
still trying to remember the name of it. Brain.
And you'll see different iterations of the same character played, and you know, some people do things a little bit differently. Sometimes people do like a mashup. This is my interpretation of this character, and they'll change it. Like this steampunk version of this character, or
and Anime USA has a lot of cosplay. I mean, it is one of the higher ratio of cosplay to non-cosplayer in this area. So it's kind of nice. You see a lot of variety. And I was also interested, and of course, it's just Friday, but a very wide variety. It's not, 20% Naruto or 20% Bleach or whatever, where one tends to dominate. Has an emotional value ever come up at a con? Probably.
Emotional value.
Yeah.
Wait. Emotional value, how so?
I assume in terms of like buying and selling.
Every time I go to the dealer's floor, I'm like,
My
I
poor
can't
wallet.
live without it, but I can't leave this spot. I've got to buy it. I'm looking at Rick and Morty stuff right now. I'm thinking, okay, I've got 1 through 7, and I've got one of these two. Which one don't I have? I got to read the story again. But wait, I bought them when they first came out. And then suddenly the time's out of hand, and I got to get back to interview. But the dealers' floors are great. And when you go to a number of cons, you start to see some of the same dealers come through, and even their staff members are sometimes the same. And it's really cool because you can kind of develop some relationships with these people, and it's definitely an emotional time, especially when you find that one thing you've been looking for. Like, no, Pickle Rick! Yeah, it's. So, as a fan of some of the space operas, I found some models that are just incredible, and certain vendors lean more towards that, and certain vendors towards other things, and so everybody has their specialty. But it's some of these things I only see at cons. I mean, I could kind of search online, but not really easily, and nothing like being able to look at it right there. Sometimes people do good photos of stuff, but when you see it,
I used to search for prints. I used to get a print at every. Hey, Matt Chief.
Howdy.
I used to get a print at every con of just some artist, different artists every time, and then I got 20 of them, and I was like, what am I going to do with the 21st print at a con? It's like, so I kind of tailored off, stopped doing that. No figures for me. My gosh, that is a hobby like laser discs. I did not want to get into that one.
I started the laser discs thing, but it's tricky to find them. I have a couple of players, so I just get them because it's a cool technology. But sometimes I find a great version of something. There's also another weird technology that was really not as well known, a capacitive disc. It was the size of a laser disc, but it functioned more like a record, but it still had video. And I've seen a few of those around, so it's really cool. Do you think that the advent of flea markets will bring animation cell sales back into view? We haven't seen animation cells for years because, of course, the technology changed and people don't do it that way. So it's almost like finding a rare antique when you see one, and you almost want to yeah, it's a one-off. Maybe somebody will have 3 or 4 in their booth, but not like the days of old where there were people selling batches of these.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you think that we'll see some really unusual stuff come on the flea market? Sort of like Antiques Roadshow. Hey.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, I'm definitely willing to unload a couple of things you're not going to be able to find anywhere else. Just because 15 years ago, I stumbled across this thing. It's hard to find some of this stuff.
Video games. They have some old video games. If you're a fan of kind of retro, so just people will bring in their old school games and buy, sell, trade.
And sometimes they had some PS2 games there, which is kind of right in that middle ground where it's not quite retro, but it's still something you can't find in stores. So that's kind of nice. You can find that stuff that's kind of dropped off the normal radar. So yeah, that's certainly there. I often tend to look for DVDs because you'll find really weird random shows that it's technically on Right Stuff somewhere, but I'd never know to find it.
3D printed figurines started selling at cons.
Haven't seen any.
I haven't seen them sell as much as I've seen people bringing them in, and I kind of want to see what's going on. There were a few folks who were doing costume props who were like, "We sell these, we do these," but it's like a commission type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a few people. There's folks who will do like glass etching. You can get your stuff done in glass, but I think it's just beginning to get into that direction now. As far as 3D printed figurines, not so much. We did go to a convention that was a different convention. It wasn't an anime convention per se. It was the Sci-Fi Museum convention. Sci-Fi Museum is not a brick and mortar place yet.
Yeah.
These are people who are putting on a convention, and they have floor plans that you can look through of the designs that they're hoping to actually get a building and put all sorts of sci-fi memorabilia in. They had someone there who was doing 3D printed figurines, and they were beyond fantastic. They were multiple color.
Yeah.
Multiple color. It was almost like it was airbrushed.
Yeah.
And they had something that was really cool. They had 4 DLP projectors. Now, usually DLP projectors have all those little micro mirrors, and they project out a signal. They used it in a different way. They had it in a ring, sort of a geodesic dome type of ring, with a whole bunch of lights. And they trigger the lights. The light would reflect off of whatever was in the ring, like I'm Spider-Man posing for my shot. And the DLP projectors would capture the visual of it. From that, they'd make a 3D image of whatever was in the ring. It was a giant scanner.
Yeah.
They turned around the DLP and said, it's not going to project, it's going to capture.
Interesting.
And they captured people in poses.
Yep.
And then they can take that through the 3D printer, including the color layers. It's unbelievable. It's the resolution, the color. It was steps above what I've seen. So I think that's probably on the horizon for us seeing 3D printed figurines. Now the problem is licensing issues. That's always going to be something. So that's where I think there's still going to be a little bit of hesitation before you actually start seeing things like that out there, because there's always copyright. Yeah, there's probably some folks who are going to be in the artist alley doing their own stuff, but if you're looking for something that's we licensed this for the U.S. or who was the original, that's going to probably take a little while before it trickles through.
Yeah, I have half a dozen STL files of like anime figurines, like generic characters, things along those lines. And so one of my upcoming projects is to try printing those at reasonable scale, just to get a sense of what they would look like. So if and when that happens, I'll definitely show you guys how they ended up. What the resolution was on them, all that kind of stuff. It'll be interesting just to see with a standard printer and just printing them out, what does it look like? It'll be interesting. There's so many things. And one of the interesting things about figurines is the geometry is complicated. Humans just aren't designed for printing.
She's
just weight.
Heavy.
Yeah, exactly. And also, interestingly, it's a lot of it is the pose of the figure. Right, very few characters are just standing there like this, right? So you got a character that's doing this. Can't see that
Suddenly,
at all.
the balance of an arm
Yeah,
offsets,
and where
then
they all
you have
are
to
is
have
really
structural balances to keep it from falling over, or a wide base. Or,
yeah, and sometimes it's easier to just kind of chop it in half and do that. So yeah, it'll be fun to play around and see what we get out of that. But yeah, they don't seem to be showing up commercially yet. We'll see, or even semi-pro commercially, if you will.
You could contract something, but
Yeah.
contracting stuff is still a little bit more
Although,
expensive.
it is interesting. You'd think in Artist Alley, you have a handful of people who, I mean, they're making all sorts of stuff.
You heard it here, folks. Niche market, go for it.
Totally. So 3D printing stuff and sell it at Artist Alley for $5. So who knows?
So that's we didn't get a chance to spend much time through Artist Alley.
Yeah.
They had an interesting setup this year that was a little bit more extensive. Usually at the cons they'll have one door in to the dealer's room and one door out. You can't go out through the indoor. You can't go in through the outdoor. This particular con has had the outdoor chained to the Artist Alley, which is cool because the artist gets people flowing through,
right?
And so you don't have to go through a different line to get in. However, it kind of slows down your egress or getting out.
And
this time around, though, they not only changed the Artist Alley, but they also changed the gaming room.
The game room, yep.
So when we went into the Artist Alley, we're thinking, okay, we'll just spend a quick 5 minutes here. Or the dealer's room. We were just going to spend a quick 5 minutes.
Walk around.
Okay, we're due for an interview. We got to get out of here. Suddenly, okay, well, where's the exit? And we're walking around.
It is the dealer, Artist Alley. Okay, fine.
okay, Artist Alley. Wait, no,
the video games.
What's
going on?
And I mean, if you're not on a tight schedule, it is a great opportunity to just go down all sorts of different rabbit trails because there's so many cool things that are going on. And see that game. Somebody built that computer with all that. Okay, and this person has just. Crap! I gotta get to my interview. So it was good and it was bad. It was a little tricky.
Yeah. It's. I'm definitely looking forward to spending a little time in there. Hopefully tomorrow, if there's some time. We'll see how all that goes. We're gonna try to record all the panels for tomorrow. We'll see how that goes.
You're doing a bunch of panels. So if you guys ever make it to Brent's panels, they're fantastic. And he's doing 2 new panels this time, right?
Yep. So
what all panels are you doing this time?
So we're doing a brief history of anime.
That's what got me.
A brief history of giant robots. So that's in the evening. And then sandwiched between those two, like delicious cream, is a tour of world animation, which is going to be basically clips of 20 different films made neither by Disney nor in Japan.
Incidentally, this anime convention has a theme that includes more world animation.
Yep.
And so Brent's panel rolls right into that.
And full disclosure, I found out about that last year, just talking to some of the event coordinators, and I was like, oh, I can do panels to that. So these are kind of custom built to the theme. So we're doing that, and then I'm doing a 2-hour brief history of world animation, which is basically going through America, Great Britain, France, Germany, Spain, Russia, South Korea, and Japan.
I saw the preview of his panel, and it's awesome. This is hot, spicy. I gotta get a tissue.
Okay.
I'm gonna have snot in my soup if I don't.
Ew. So yeah, and again, hopefully, hey Seth, hopefully those will all be recorded and will end up here on the channel at some point. Because I actually made that stuff, and apparently YouTube is not going to kill me for doing that, although who knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the panels for tomorrow, and we've got like an hour or 2 between each one. So it shouldn't be too
everybody.
bad. Yeah. So we'll see. And there's a lot of different, and that's another interesting thing. Like a lot of the panels this year have been around the stuff we've been talking about. Stuff about mythology, stuff about Japanese culture, panels about history. There's a whole bunch of stuff about dolls, Hina dolls, and things like those lines.
You know, that's kind of an interesting idea. I'd love to hear what you guys find interesting because then we can like steer stuff in different directions. I mean, we can't guarantee that we'll be able to or have time or but it's always good hearing from you guys like what you'd like us to kind of take a look at, and sometimes we can, and then we can provide better content for you. So since we go to these conventions pretty regularly, tell us, hey, what's the deal on the dealers floor? Are these guys regular, and or who are the big cosplayers or stuff like that? Whatever you guys are interested in, keep us posted, because we can check out stuff when we start planning our schedules.
Totally. Yeah, there's a lot, and it's neat being able to go in and kind of pick and choose to say, oh, there's a lot of good things. We're going to kind of pull out the best or the stuff that makes most sense for us. And hopefully we can afford all this stuff and put it out there. Or as much as we can.
As much as we can.
Yeah. Love to have cameras in like every room.
But. And that's the thing with these conventions. There's so many things going on simultaneously. Oh, I want to be in like 3 places at once. How can I do that?
That's a great one, Jay. Yokai, sort of really versus yokai in anime. That's a great idea.
Differences.
Yeah, I got a few things.
Very interesting.
And there's Gegege no Kitaro, there's Yokai Watch. I think of other major, I guess any other anime that really feature yokai.
So for ignorant Evan, what's a yokai?
A yokai is a tradition, and this is the problem with any sort of cultural thing, is people say it's like a thing in English culture. It's like, well, no, it's not that thing. But yokai are a form of traditional Japanese creature or monster or spirit. So you think of like the Headless Horseman. Things along those lines, where there are specific beliefs around the character, what they do, how they operate, but it's not a religious thing. Right? It's not an angel or demon.
So let me ask you: there's something in Japanese culture where there's like this ghost like eyeball thing that walks around. Would that be
probably a yokai? Yep, absolutely. So the yokai I'm most familiar with, and I forget its name, but it is the yokai that is the sound of somebody following you wearing geta sandals. So it's just that clop, clop, clop behind you. And if you turn and look, there's nobody there. But then that means it can kind of grab onto your soul. It's a gun, that could be it. And what you have to do is stop and then say something along the lines of, you may pass, you may pass, you may pass. And then you wait, you close your eyes and let the creature go past you, and then you're fine. Something like, I'm probably getting.
So these are like the folk kind of things that are like, the whole thing when I was a little kid, midnight, look in the mirror and say Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary,
Totally. So what's interesting is that in contrast to American creatures like this, where they were almost always villainous, yokai were always represented as just creatures. Some of them could be good, some of them could be bad. They could be mischievous, but they were just another race of beings that existed. So the kappa is a great example of that. It's probably the best known, which are these little hairy, gnomish creatures that have a depression in their head. Yes.
I mean, not literally. In anime.
And so that's the thing, is that, you're right, Neuro Rise of the Yokai Clan. Another one. And so the thing is, like, in rural places in Japan, kappa are, play in the water. Like, you know that kappa exists. They're just part of the fabric of reality. And so there's this interesting sort of integration between mythology and tradition, if you will, of whether these things really do or do not exist.
Vengeful yokai, do they exist?
There are vengeful yokai, yes.
So like a vengeful spirit type of thing.
But so it's kind of, and again, it's kind of like, there are a Wolverine, for example, where Wolverines are pretty darn nasty, spiteful creatures.
Don't they pee on their stuff so other animals won't eat it. That's pretty nasty.
And so, just like that, there are yokai that are, more vicious than others and less pleasant. So there are, kind of good and bad yokai, but it's not the sense that yokai are vengeful or yokai are peaceful. It just depends on the yokai you come across.
Let me ask you guys, wasn't there an anime about a young boy who was living among yokai?
That is Gegege no Kitaro. Yes.
Gegege no Kitaro.
Yes, and it actually refers to, that is onomatopoeic. The Gegege is the sound of like crickets. No, it's the sound of like crickets.
Oh yeah, like a.
And so every every storyline started with the sound effect of gegege of the crickets, and that was kind of the introduction of the character. So I'm not sure, and I literally do not know whether Oni are technically yokai or not. It's an interesting question. It could well be
Charles, where are you?
Yeah, I know, totally.
We have a friend, Charles Dunbar, who has spent a lot of time and training.
I did run into him actually today.
Oh, did you?
Great. He came into the panel with the voice actors, and I went over and I said hi, and he said, "I'm like running all over the place at this convention. You?" I'm like, "I'm running all over the place at this convention." Like, so he's like, "Hi, yeah, see you later." So fair enough.
But he spent significant time in Japan, including I think a Buddhist monastery at some point, and so he has some interesting backstories. So sometime maybe we can get an interview for you guys to check him out. He's a good guy.
And he does like a whole panel on yokai, I think. So there's all sorts of material. But yeah, it's yokai are really cool. So yeah, we love to dig into that because that's a whole universe of material.
Oh, speaking of snow women, in world anime,
the Snow Queen. That's interesting.
This is a Crispin thing. Is this the reason I'm thinking about this is there are certain traditions that kind of are in each and every culture. There's a concept, and there may be a variation on a theme.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if I should send out spoilers about your panel, but
sure.
Brent was showing me an anime from Russia involving a snow queen. That is kind of the foundational story for. Sorry, my brain's they just be
Frozen.
Frozen.
Yep.
And the concept of snow queens are also in several other places. Totally. I don't suppose we're going to find them in too many tropical climates.
Yeah. But yeah, the idea of an evil sorceress who controls the weather, certainly there. Horror comedy anime show from Gona.
Interesting combo.
Yeah.
Horror and comedy.
Gona guy does that a lot. He's really good. In a great way. That's really interesting because the Snow Queen is fairly well known in Japan, and you wonder if there's kind of a connection there.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Digging into the kind of those core things. There's a great thing Joseph Campbell wrote about. I'm going to get totally wrong, where he found this Pacific Island myth that was about the rebirth of some person, and then he found like a native Japanese myth from same time period, completely opposite sides of the globe, almost exactly the same story. It's just it's really weird that these things kind of evolve.
It makes you think there's some kernel of truth at some point, and then the story was relayed word of mouth for years and years, and eventually evolved into a different thing. I think I've heard several different flood stories. The story of Noah's Ark and a world flood. And I think there's several other stories that are similar throughout the world.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, there's all these different things. Maybe there's some kernel of something where these sourced and then kind of grew, and you always wonder how much is embellished and how is it different from culture to culture.
Yeah. Well, and it's certainly true that, and again, as Crispin talks about, the reason mythology stays with us, the reason these stories get retold over and over, is because they matter, because they connect with us on some level, right? They wouldn't survive if people didn't care about them. So the fact that we keep retelling the story of Odysseus means the story of struggling against.
We're pushing that stone up the hill again.
Yeah, totally. That is something that is kind of fundamental in some way to how humans think. And so it makes sense that you have the Journey to the West in Asia, which is very much about a group of people going out on this crazy adventure and dealing with all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's all about culture together.
That was a very hot noodle. Oh my goodness, my nose is...
Some like it hot.
Some like it hot.
Mm-hmm.
When the heat is on, don't take us down YouTube. Evan, stop getting us in trouble with YouTube.
I was reading... I was getting into trouble yesterday, or last week. There's a new thing called D2.
D2?
Which is a blockchain-based video service.
There have been a lot of things about blockchain.
And so the idea is basically, and this is going way off topic, but it's geek.
Yeah,
That basically, so there's a blockchain, and so for those not familiar, a blockchain is basically you can think of it as kind of like an old bank ledger. It is a record of things that happened that cannot be modified, right? So you don't go back into a bank ledger
it's the record.
And change things, right? It is stored.
Oh, man. So look at the ledger of my life.
Oh,
Evan, shame on you. Oh, you did good. Oh, shame on you. Okay. Oh, you spent too much here.
And so a blockchain is simply a canonical record of things that just goes linearly. And so the idea behind this is, what if you submitted a video to a site, and that goes into a blockchain? It is a record in blockchain. And so the title, author, all that stuff is committed for all time. As long as that blockchain exists, that exists in the record. And then there's also a cryptocurrency attached to it. And
they use blockchain for cryptocurrency.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. And they don't have to be connected, but in this case they are. And but the thing is, they have a certain amount of video storage for the service. Limited. If you get essentially upvoted on the service, you get money. You get this cryptocurrency put to your account.
Sure.
And that is inherent in the system. They are taking the cryptocurrency in the system and funneling it in that way.
Come and see the currency inherent in the system.
And, exactly, if you do not get more than, say, 10 cents worth of essentially upvotes in like the first 7 days, your video gets removed.
Oh, wow.
From the service, from this sort of extra storage. Unless you specifically, well, we'll get to that in a second. And then, moreover, as time goes on, there's an algorithm that basically says, if you are still making money, we'll keep you in this storage.
Okay, but, that makes sense.
But the longer you're there, the more money you have to make to stay in the thing. And part of it is that some of that money, you're getting money, but they're also essentially spending money on the server capacity to keep that video running.
That makes sense.
The other wrinkle is that you can just set up a thing on a server somewhere with your video, and then you run a little command that will pin that video to the blockchain record. So basically say, I'm going to self-host this. Ooh. So it's always available, and even if that algorithm, it falls out of the algorithm, it's still there on the service. So obviously there are downsides to this. There are all sorts of structural issues. It's a really interesting way.
Yeah, it sounds like a new formative technology that's coming about.
D2. And the problem is, everyone assumes it's porn.
That's usually what drives a lot of technologies. That's what drove the VHS sales, the home video cassette sales in the initial stages. But of course, you can use a hammer for good, you can use a hammer for bad. It's in the onus of the person who's wielding the hammer.
And the subreddit talks a lot about things like, well, what if someone uploads certain content that would be highly illegal? Yeah. And they said, well, it gets downloaded, right? It doesn't last, and so it doesn't stay in their storage, and so it goes away.
But it's a permanent blockchain record.
But that's the thing, is that it's permanent blockchain records, but just the header, essentially.
Just the header.
Not the video itself.
Not the actual content.
So you can say, okay, yes, somebody uploaded this at some point. Okay, but it's gone. And that is kind of inherent in the system that if enough people kind of push it down, then it's not going to be there, and presumably no one's going to, upvote CP.
JBiz, sex sells.
Yeah.
That's true. And that's kind of part of the story of 1,000 Arabian Nights, if I recall.
True.
Oh, I have this woman. I can kill her since I'm the king, but she's going to entertain me with a tale. So I'll let her live for the next night. And she does that for like 1,000 nights. That kind of, it's kind of true. I mean, it is a strong draw.
And that's the other thing. So I went on the site.
I mean, 1,000 Arabian Nights was in reference to a previous thing, but I suddenly see that conception.
You're absolutely right. So I went on DTube
D2
a couple of days ago.
That's what it's called? D2?
DTube. Tube as in YouTube.
Like YouTube, DTube.
And there was no adult material on there when I went on there. So apparently, like their filters are working well to keep that stuff.
Every time I see somebody use BitTorrent for something good, I'm like, hallelujah, look, see, it's true, it works, I can get my Linux distro, see, it's not all bad, yes, we will hold on to this. Electronic freedom for.
That's all I use BitTorrent for.
Yeah. At least until somebody uses Wireshark on me.
Yeah, exactly. It's annoying, so I shouldn't say this. Never mind. So, yeah.
We will rephrase. We had a great time at this con so far.
Yes, absolutely. We were saying this is a really well-run con, a lot of well-known guests.
What's the motto of AUSA? It's
of fans, by fans, for fans?
Yes. And so they've taken feedback from people over the years and improved it, which is always nice.
And here's something I kind of noticed. Not only do they have well-known guests, like this evening they had multiple panels with multiple guests on it. And you think, okay, fine, but if you want to see Crispin Freeman or Research or whatever, you don't have to choose. You go to this one place.
They're both there.
They're all on this one panel, and you can do your thing. And they have that several other times, so it's not like, well, I want to go here, I want to go there. They're really trying, and also usefully, that panel was themed.
Yes.
It was all that particular panel was about voice acting, and so you get information from it.
You don't have to ask the same question of 5 different voice actors, because they'll probably give similar response, but they can give it with their experience, so it's easy to get it all in there.
Hey, Carl.
Carl.
Fanime is bigger than AX. Wow, it must have really grown. That's impressive. Cool. But yeah, it's really interesting. AX has the advantage that it's on the West Coast, and most of those cons do, and they have the budget to bring in a lot of those crazy, like, yeah, I directed Cowboy Bebop. Hi. Hi, I invented Gundam. Hi. Which is kind of crazy. But yeah, really impressed with AUSA, and they're definitely very open to feedback. We were in their feedback panel a year or two ago, and people coming up and saying, this thing happened. Like, thank you. Good. We will.
And they took notes, and they took.
And they changed things. So yeah, it's a good thing.
What's kind of cool is as people get married and have kids, it's kind of harder to go to cons. I think in the past they've provided a room for people to have like babysitting or like childcare for a little while, so they can go and experience things. I'm not sure if they're doing it this year. I haven't
see
looked,
anything
but
this year.
In the past I know they've done that, and so it's kind of neat. There's all sorts of things that they'll test out and see. Is this something that we want to keep going from year to year?
I should have checked. Last year I ran a D&D game at the con, and it was full up.
That's right, yeah.
And I didn't submit it this year for some... Maybe I did, I'm not sure. But that was always kind of a shocker. That for some reason okay, sure, this is a big deal. Look at cons like Comic-Con, how much they grown up. Yeah, totally. I mean, the Comic-Cons especially have just...
Yeah, I'm amazed. I'm running into people now who've been to them who I'd never expect. Like, wow, you went there? You're a fan? I never knew. You're always so business attire, prim and proper. I just never guessed you were a fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not geeking out like me.
Well, and the thing about Comic-Cons now is they've done this really smart thing where they have Comic-Con exclusives. So if you want the special foil cover of this one comic book, you have to go to San Diego Comic-Con this year. You had to be there. And of course, you have the guests and so forth. And then, of course, like at SDCC, everyone's there. So it doesn't matter, Bruce Campbell is going to be there, everyone. So there's something for everyone. You could be a horror fan, you could be whatever. You're gonna find stuff.
Man, I'd have to, clone myself several times over.
But exactly, that's the other great thing, Jay, is that you can also get exposed to other things.
That's the greatest thing. In fact, that's kind of what got me into a lot of things, because I just went to my first con not knowing what I was going to get into. Solo, no friends, just, okay, I heard this thing exists, I'm going to go to it. And my eyes got big. I've heard of people dressing up in costume for Halloween, but these people are dressing up here, and I mean, just, it's incredible the exposure you get. And it's nice to sometimes go to other conventions, because there are certain overlaps. Like MagFest had video gamers and other areas, and the sci-fi con that we went to was fantastic. But there's all sorts of different stuff that is really interesting to check out, because this existed. Okay, now I've got a new hobby that I'm going to enjoy.
My favorite memory of my first anime con was Saturday afternoon, I think, seeing two heavily pierced and tattooed goths walking through, looking like they were feeling totally overwhelmed by all the cosplay. It's kind of like, we put on, we do this eyeliner. What? Wait, what?
No, I'm supposed to be the unusual one here. Exactly. This does not make sense.
So it's like, yeah, you've been served.
Staying overnight at a con.
Yeah.
Comic Con.
I have never done. I've stayed, at the hotel. I've stayed there at the con. But
I did stay up overnight. It's kind of cool, kind of weird. I did it once or twice, but I kind of shy away from it now, because, I can do it. I can go to the rave, stay up real late. The crowds kind of dwindle, which is cool. They put on the adult things, which are adult themed. Some of them were good. Some of them were like, okay, well, But at the same time, it's cool because, the crowds disappear. But I get tired. I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff I want to see tomorrow morning. And now I'm a dead zombie walking around going,
It does catch up with you at some point.
So, I mean, if you're young and crazy and drink a lot of caffeine, you can probably do it. But, it kind of changes the quality of it. If you definitely want to see that panel or show that's only showing at that time, I think go for it.
Yeah.
So some of the things will wind down a little bit. Sometimes the tracks will diminish during certain hours, which is kind of cool. But I've seen people go. They haven't gotten hotel rooms, and they'll go into a video room and just sort of zone off while they're watching it. Technically, you're not supposed to sleep at the cons in public areas.
Yeah.
But, it's.
And to that point, one of the things that makes it a little more difficult is that more and more cons are going later and later and earlier and earlier. Like Katsucon, they've got panels going until 2, 3.
You got to fit it all in there somehow.
Totally. So it is definitely easy to do that.
That's something also they're starting earlier and earlier. It used to be Friday, early Friday before most business hours. Okay, now that we're doing stuff Thursdays.
Yeah.
Whoa! Soon we're gonna have a whole week. Yes. Convention week.
Otakon now, their badging opens on Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's recently moved from Baltimore to DC, and it's really nice because it's very accessible via metro. So you don't have to get tied into just the hotels near an expensive location.
You don't have to pay parking.
Parking is another big factor, unless you're hauling a lot of cosplay stuff with you. But that could be.
We had sticker shock today with parking.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, sticker shock.
Man.
Quite often they'll have a special rate if you go to a hotel where the convention's going on. If you tell them, hey, I'm here for the convention, is there a special rate? But it's not always publicized, so always ask if you get a chance. Comiket is something that I'd love to see. I've only seen it in anime, and I know it exists, and it just seems fascinating.
I know someone who went and said the problem is, it is Justin.
Justin.
And it is the problem is it's just packed, and so
it's true in the anime I see.
Yeah,
Queue up.
absolutely.
Oh, I'm not gonna make it. Buy 8 guppies for us.
The problem is you do spend all day in lines. Like that is the only thing to do there. So it's cool because the way you put it is kind of, in a sense, I'm glad I had the experience, but I never really want to go back because it is not a fun experience in the moment, right? You find unique things you don't find anywhere else, but also like it's pretty much all the doujinshi. So it's like, well, yeah, that's fine.
Small
but
batch run, you may never see it again.
Exactly. So definitely, like you said, so that's something I'd love to do one day, but not something I think that you look back on and say, wow, that was the most amazing experience ever. You can temper expectations.
I saw Big Sight in an anime. Big Sight in Japan is their convention center. And it's very iconic. It's upside down triangles. It's a building, and they have conventions there. And I saw it in an anime.
Yeah.
And I was amazed because I went on. I was planning a trip to Japan, and I saw it really exists.
Yeah.
So I went there. I was amazed. Sadly, I didn't make it to the convention because there was a mix-up on dates. But there was an anime convention there. I should have made it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Their system of putting in real stuff in some scenarios in anime that actually exist. Like I remember one anime had a theme made cafe called Witch Cat. It actually exists. I went there. Well, somebody had written up an article. I didn't go to the cafe though. Yeah, it's like a marathon. I mean, in a marathon, you want to pace yourself, and you can stay up overnight, but that's like sprinting. And if you spend all your energy there, you're not going to have it for the finish line. And sometimes the finish line has some cool stuff too.
A trip to Japan in general is like a marathon.
Yeah.
Because it is so different, and you are taking so many things in. Yeah, it's worth realizing. Got to pace yourself. Don't go to Roppongi. First night for 6 hours. You're gonna well, A, get fleeced, and B, just come back drunk and sleep until noon.
That's a sad thing. I kind of understand why people want to drink alcohol at a con, but at the same time I don't, because alcohol kind of slows me down and makes me tired, and then I miss out on stuff that I won't get a chance when it's not con. And so I can drink any other time, but I can, when I'm at a con. I say that as I just finished off my beer. But this con has a lot of cosplay, which is great, and it's fun. Also, Otakon has some pretty good stuff, and it's really neat to see all the different levels of skill. You can see people who are just entering into the whole realm of cosplay and some of the basic stuff. But then you can see people who have spent hours, thousands of hours working on their costume, and it's all in the level of detail. And your eye resolves different amounts of detail at different distances. So what may look one way when you're far away, you get closer up and like, oh my goodness, this person must have analyzed every frame of this anime, pulled out every detail, and made it into their costume with materials that I don't know where they could ever even find this stuff, much less if they had to make it themselves. So it's really fun seeing people who will go all out, and sometimes they get a little jealous. I want to be able to do that.
And you're absolutely right, Jay. The fandom is also very different. Where the way cosplay is done in Japan is rather different than it is in America. I would say there's a wider variety of cosplay in America, in the sense that in Japan cosplay tends to be much more complete. Isn't that the right word? But you tend to see more people going all out on their cosplay, and much less of the I'm wearing horns and a T-shirt kind of stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It just doesn't seem to be as common in Japan as in the U.S. And I don't know about UK. It's actually a really interesting question.
You know what's fun? I for one night I just started looking up anime fans in Norway.
Oh,
here you are stuck on this peninsula. It's like snowy half the year. If you're not skiing, what are you doing? Yep. And there's all sorts of different anime fans all around the world. There's anime fans in Russia. and it, the idea of like an international or going to an international con, one that's in a different country is really appealing because you get a different flavor for all these different fans. We had somebody who came from overseas to attend Anime USA at one of the ones that I was, or no, I'm sorry, at one of the Katsucons. And it was cool, this guy came overseas because he heard about this and he wanted to attend. And you just think, this guy is a fan who loves this stuff enough to travel to another country to check it out. It's pretty cool, and seeing people from other cultures and how they enjoy anime and the culture around it.
And we're getting to this point now where again, this is an anime convention that has John Ratzenberger, who was in one anime, basically.
That's kind of wild. It's opening the door, and I think there's a lot of diversity in animation itself that. It's fun to look into because sometimes you get used to like the traditional anime themes. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've seen okay, we're gonna get the fan service, we're gonna get this, we're gonna get that. Okay, yeah, I mean, sometimes it feels like okay, it's different, but there is still a formula to some degree. Where when you start going international, you get into all sorts of unusual stuff from that country's history or past or creative minds, and they're like looking into the future and envisioning what strange stuff could be, and so it's fun to be able to enjoy those. I still love anime. I'm not saying switch out from it. Nobody, and there's still love anime, but it's fun to explore some of the weird stuff from the rest of the world too.
Have you ever heard of an animation convention?
I've heard of animation shorts, but
festivals.
Not too many, are there?
They're festivals, but there aren't really any conventions.
Yeah, just outright animation.
Yeah,
festivals.
which is just odd when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, really, Comic-Cons have become the way
they
that
are
those animations get shown. So I think it is kind of time to have to broaden conventions.
Yeah.
So you can have anime conventions, you can have comic conventions, but why not have animation conventions?
In fact, that's kind of why we had trouble coming up with like a specific name because there's so many different areas that we're interested in. If we said we were just anime, well, we also like technology. I mean, here he is talking about D-Tube and blockchain, and we're also interested in Japanese culture, but we're also interested in world anime and a lot of different things, and then sci-fi, and then horror, and then just history itself, and so it's fun to see all these overlapping circles that people have.
Totally. It's really interesting, and there's Comic-Con. Certainly, Comic-Con is kind of the melting pot, like you say, of just kind of everything all in one place. And it's kind of weird that grew out of comics of all things. Comics being a rather insular medium for a long time. But that is just kind of in the convention space, it's become the big thing. Kind of weird.
I think about the stuff. There's also LARPs. There's also board games, and then there's also weird cultural games. Like here's shogi, here's Go, here's folk dolls, art ceremonies, tea ceremonies.
There is a Monopoly championship. There are people who play Monopoly for money, and somebody wins the world championship of Monopoly.
Whoa!
I mean, it's like
just think of how many times you have to pass go.
Exactly. So if we can have that, I think we can have stuff for animation in general. It's crazy. And they're huge board game conventions. There are huge conventions for all these different aspects of geekdom.
Where can I play Connect 4?
Yeah, I'm sure that exists.
Sneaky moves, sis.
I'm trying to get a D&D game running at Star City.
Ooh, nice.
In the middle of nowhere, why not?
For those of us who don't know, where's Star City? What is that?
The Star City is in Roanoke, Virginia. If you want a small convention where you can actually interact with people.
Nice and comfortable.
I love Star City.
There's something comforting about these small conventions because you get to see enough people, and it's like you connect more on an individual level. You don't feel like, I'm one of the masses of like just feel like
And the other nice thing about these sorts of conventions is that you get to travel someplace you wouldn't have traveled to otherwise. You know, you go to Otakon or AX or whatever, you know, you're going to LA or you go to New York, you go to DC, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you're never going to see much of that place. You go to Star City, you're in Roanoke, and you get to wander around a little bit if you want. You get to explore the city. It's really nice.
Star City.
Star City anime. But and you're certainly right. And the other interesting thing about Comic-Con is how, because the comic book movies got big, Comic-Con was how they tested concepts to see how people would actually react.
How's it going to play in the rest of the USA?
Do you know the Tron story?
Tell me.
So, some years ago, at San Diego Comic-Con, they gathered a whole bunch of folks into a tiny little room. Didn't tell them what was going on. They just said, "We're gonna show you a trailer," and it showed them, put them in, started playing a trailer, and it was a bunch of test footage for Tron Legacy, the new Tron film. They had not announced this. Nobody knew it was happening, and there's actually some like cell phone footage of people went nuts, and like they could tell immediately what it was supposed to be. It turns out, what had happened was, internally at Disney, people really wanted to make a sequel to Tron. And the folks, and they wanted to do a thing that was a true sequel involving characters from the original. But they also wanted to have, you know, de-aged characters. The idea is, when you're in the world of Tron, you are ageless. So you needed to de-age Jeff Bridges and all that kind of stuff. So they said, okay, here's what you're going to do. A, we're going to give you the money to do some test footage. You do like 2.5 minutes of test footage showing the de-aging, showing the technology, showing how everything's supposed to look in that world. If you can do that in a way that makes sense, great, we'll move forward. They built that, it showed internally, and they're like, okay, we still don't know if anyone cares. Right? Because, yes, you can do the technology, but this is a weird movie from 1980.
Proof of concept, but is there a market for this?
So what they did, and here's the important thing, is they didn't go to Comic-Con and find Tron fans.
No, because that's too easy. It's skewed.
Yep.
Biased.
So they took just a random sampling of fans, brought them in, and when a random sampling of geeks freaked out about a Tron sequel, they knew,
we've got it. These are not just dyed-in-the-wool Tron fans who will swallow anything we send them.
Yep.
These are people who are just cultured consumers, and they're like, oh, have to have.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, man.
And
that must have been incredible to be in that.
And that was the cool thing, is that, very wisely, they greenlit it based on fan reaction to early footage. So you didn't have to commit $300 million or something and it would flop and make $10.
I'd like to see more Japanese animators come and do that with us. Just pilot. Okay, what do you think about this? It's not necessarily for Gundam fans, but maybe it is.
And that's been tough because the same kind of issue is that you bring over somebody to a con over here and have them show footage. Well, of course, everyone's going to freak out.
Yeah,
and it's kind of hard to do that thing where you're hinting at something or you're kind of testing the waters, not folks knowing what it is.
You know, back when I was in school, I was taking some film classes, and we were able to go to screenings before movies were released, and they had completely decided on what the endings were, and so the studios were testing this, and you know, you get your special ticket so you can go in, and then part of that is you let them know what you thought about it. And I had a chance to see the movie Nell. And she was like, it's a long story. If you ever see Nell, it's about a girl who learns to talk from a woman who's had a stroke and she can't speak because part of the and but they try out different endings and see which has got and then they finalize their film and send it out. So it was really cool seeing that. But I don't know of any lists or ways to get into that. So it's like they spring it on you.
Yeah.
So Turkey is a long way to go for a New York Comic Con.
No kidding.
But that is cool. That's impressive.
That's amazing.
And Turkey, wow. Yeah, that is impressive.
That's nuts. Good nuts. Good version of nuts.
Well, shoot, I had good
tasting
fan
nuts.
foods.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
Or wait, shoot,
Yeah.
I wonder what the fan scene is like in Turkey. You know, it's interesting to see like different areas. Like some folks have to go to like border countries just to, you know, have an actual convention because it's just not done.
Yeah. So many people. Yeah. Well, what do you do? Yeah. It's fascinating, kind of digging into how fandom organizes in other countries, and in any country.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely evolved very uniquely in every country. You know, Italy had this. Apparently, in Italy, so basically, what would happen is that somebody would decide to publish a whole bunch of like scanned manga. They fan translate manga and publish it, like in bookstores.
Whoa.
And people would find out about this, and so they would just shut down after a month, and then they would start up again the next month and publish.
Pop-up shop.
Yeah, and they would just repeat this over and over and over with a different name every time, same people. And there's just and they just flooded the market with all this manga, and and the laws were such that it was kind of hard to prosecute that. It was kind of a loophole, and so. Apparently, Italy has this long tradition of manga just being very easy to find because there are all these people just, oh, here you go, and you're making just enough money, you know, every iteration to keep going. Wow. Yeah, very very.
You know, it's a funny balance. You know, you have to balance the goose and the golden egg. If you do too much, where the folks who are making the content don't make any money, then eventually it dies off. But if you don't let some stuff free, then it's too cost prohibitive at some level for developing a deep fan base, and so it's like a balance, and that's where, you know, hey, I'm a friend. Go ahead and borrow my library, return it when you're done, or you know, whatever. And you know, these flea market things. I can't tell you how many times I've bought used anime from bookstores, and I'm impressed. You know, it's not like I'm buying the original. But I keep the market going to some degree, so it's a secondary market, and I'm sure there's tertiary and so forth down the line. But so studying the fan base.
There is an online journal called, I believe, Fanthropologies, which is I think a quarterly, or maybe 6 times a year, online journal all about. Academic research into fandom. So, and if you just look up like online fan journal, you'll find it, and it's free. You can just subscribe to it. They'll send it to you. Like a lot of journals, I subscribed to it for a while. There'll be some issues where you're like, I don't care about any of this. Just I don't care what. Yeah, you know.
I'm sure maybe in the next one it will.
It'll be some fan base like, and others where they install gold.
Typewriters from 1869.
Yeah, exactly.
What, they had them then?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how it has to be, where you release a manga, release the first few volumes, see how it sells, and then move from there. There was an interview with a guy at 7 Seas who said he was talking about how difficult it can be because there'll be a manga in Japan. You're like, we would love to release all 20 volumes of this. We just can't commit to it. We can't know that it's going to get the audience. So we'll commit to enough, and then move on from there if it works. But it's just economically, there's only so much you can do. It's tough. There's nothing more these folks want to do than provide more manga to everybody. But they're always tough.
Well, live vicariously through us. We're going to these conventions. Ask us.
Yeah.
Let us know what you like to see and what you want to hear about. And we can give you some good feedback on stuff. And
what you do, cool. Yeah.
So
tell us.
It's always appreciated when you guys let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that is Anime USA in short. Have you been watching any anime this week? I have not.
I've watched a few series recently. I saw season 3 and 4 of Ikitosen.
Ooh.
And I fell in love with it despite all the fan service.
Sorry,
He suddenly starts to strip.
Yeah.
You have to have, like, tearaway outfits. But it had some interesting stories. And I also saw Red Data Girl, which was really unusual. I felt like there's some weird spiritual stuff that I should, like, kind of, like, research. But it was kind of neat, you know. It had some stuff in there that was cool. But it seems like a lot of things, you know, I seem to recall both of them have a strong base on the story of the Three Kingdoms. I have to plead ignorance. I have not read the story of the Three Kingdoms, but it seems that a lot of Japanese anime will refer to it. And so that's an area of my education that I'd love to, like, delve deeper into. What is this story that is an archetype of so many anime? I mean,
and for those curious, and I know very little, The Romance of the Three Kingdoms is the story of, is it Korea or China?
I would assume.
Either Korea, I think it's Korea, of these three kingdoms that were at war with each other, and then this epic story, what happened as a result of that. The Incarnated Slime. That is a fun show. But yeah,
that sounds like fun.
It's a fun show. But yeah, it's I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. 1 second. But yeah, Romance of the Three Kingdoms is one of those. It's kind of like, oh gosh, I don't know, King Kong or whatever. One of those stories just kind of gets reinterpreted over and over. China. Okay, thank you. It's reinterpreted over and over and over again. So I said I haven't watched much anime. I watched the first episode of like 20 different anime series last Saturday. I should talk about that. I watched the new season this past week, a good chunk of the new season. Highlights would include, let me think, I'm trying to rewind and not remember the stuff from like last season or the season before. So definitely, the time I got reincarnated as a slime is a really fun one, fantasy series. That is a plot. Guy gets reincarnated as a slime. And that's kind of worked his way up, though there are twists. I'll be curious to see if it has the same amount of nudity as the manga, which is a little bit here and there. So I'm like, oh, okay. So that was cool. I'm going to pull up the thing. 1 second. Crunchyroll. Actually, no. Anime chart. This was going to be winter 2018, or is this fall? This is probably fall. Yeah, October. Let me just pull up the list. That's going to be fine. No, that's the wrong one. 1 second. Helps if you click on the right link. Goblin Slayer. So Goblin Slayer was certainly the big one. Goblin Slayer is about a group of teenage adventurers who go on an adventure. They fight goblins, and they lose very badly.
I'd never want to lose against a goblin.
If you don't enjoy seeing people dying while screaming bloody murder from like gut wounds, followed by the female characters having their clothes ripped off and dragged into bad things happening to female characters, Goblin Slayer is not for you. It is very dark.
How do they keep enough characters if that happens? We'll get more.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of the characters die off in episode 1. So, definitely gritty, fantasy story. It's pretty interesting there. Let's see, so that's Slime. Oh, yeah, the Puberty Syndrome one.
The Puberty Syndrome?
So this is a weird one. The Bunny Girl Senpai no Yume no whatever. I can't find the... let me just pull up the...
I thought I saw...
No, VCR. Rascal does not dream of a Bunny Girl Senpai. So basically, this guy notices one of his other classmates walking around a library while wearing a Bunny Girl outfit.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
That would.
And realizes she's just walking around, like, doing this, and people aren't noticing her at all. And it turns out she is turning invisible.
Whoa.
In certain contexts. And it turns out in this version of reality, different people, different adolescents manifest different weird abilities depending on certain like traumas or issues they have, and so like she's getting depressed, and this is how that's coming out. And what's neat is she's not depressed in the sense of like, you know, a character who's sitting in the corner sucking her thumb all the time. She's just depressed, right? It's just she's just not feeling great.
People don't see me; they're not going to interact with me. I'm being ignored. That's not cool.
And so she has this. So the first episode is basically this long conversation between her and the main character about how she's feeling, how he's feeling. He has some of his own issues, and so it's very much this dialogue about being an adolescent, about kind of growing up.
That's
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Did I see a new version of something in Top Center there? Sword Art Online.
Yep, there's a new one. Yeah, of every season there's a new Sword Art Online.
So they were so successful with the
yep,
others. It's they
just continued chugging along. Let's see here. I did not see the first season of the new Index. Just didn't get to it. Where do you see Zombieland? Where do you see Zombieland?
Lower left there.
Zombieland Saga. Yes. Yes. Zombieland Saga. I'm not going to tell you anything about Zombieland Saga, except it's the funniest thing I've seen this season, which is kind of weird, but it's a really interesting thing. We're going to watch that tonight.
I got to see that.
Let's see here. What else? So the big one is, this is translated as, oh gosh, 1 second.
That's a long name.
They're all long names. My Sister, My Writer, which is basically guy writes light novels about having a cute younger sister, although his younger sister is always berating him and all that kind of stuff. Turns out his younger sister wrote a novel, which is now a big prize winner, about a younger sister who has a crush on her older brother. Which of course she doesn't actually believe.
But she wrote it.
But she wrote it. And so, but then she asks him to basically be her for press, because she doesn't want anyone to know that she wrote this novel.
Yeah.
Pretty fan servicey, you know, a little creepy and very incesty. So just kind of a little weird. What was Radiant? I forgot what Radiant was. Shonen Story, I think. Hunter fighting Nemesis. Yeah, I don't remember Radiant at all, but it was nicely done. Let's see here. Conception. What was Conception? Oh yeah, Conception's kind of interesting. Guy and girl whisked away to fantasy world, where they have to fight monsters basically, and he ends up having to. So it's really weird. It's based on a visual novel. He has to fight these monsters, he has to create a variety of children to fight them, because it's all DNA based. And so all these women suddenly show up to do
I need
this
to fight,
them.
I better procreate.
Exactly. The visual, it is not an adult visual novel. So there's no actual in there. And apparently there's some twist where, like, I don't know how it works, because apparently, like, they procreate very quickly. Demons, thank you, yes, demons.
Like rabbits.
Yeah, and suddenly their children are, like, you know, manifesting.
How did they come up with this?
Guess. You know, it's like, okay. So it was actually kind of sweet, because, like, he and his childhood friend turned out to be compatible, so they're like, well, okay, we'll do this thing, because we kind of have to. We also like each other. So it was nice, but one of the things where I think I know where this is going, right? It's like, okay. Let's see here. Didn't watch that one. Miss Vampire Who Lives Next Door is a fun one. Goofy comedy. The Maid anime creeped me out, although it was funny. That is Uzo Maid. Basically, cute little girl is kind of misbehaving, and this woman walks by and sees the little girl and just goes, "She is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life." And ends up leaving her job and can't get another job, and notices that in this house they're hiring a maid. And she's like, "Oh, this is perfect. I'll be more than happy to be the maid for this family. She's so cute." But the girl is an absolute terror. But
cute terror.
The maid turns out that her last job was actually with the Japanese Self-Defense Force. She's an Air Force pilot. She is just ripped.
I don't think she's going to put up with any nonsense then.
She has no issues. You know, she's absolutely fine. So that's fun, but there is a certain amount of, you know, little girl fetishization. Where, and by that I mean, like, there's nothing sexual about the little girl, but there's a lot of, you know, yeah, a little creepy. But funny. Gridman, couldn't quite get a good read on that. JoJo.
FLCL Alternative?
Yeah.
What?
Furry Curry.
What?
New Furry Curry.
When?
Yeah, this is season 3
it's
of Furry
all
Curry.
out?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've been doing Furry Curry. Yeah, they've been doing that for a while.
Man.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I went to the website back in the day when I first saw this. I was like, okay, it's all in Japanese. I can't read anything. I think I sent them a message saying, please more once.
I liked Run with the Wind, which is the running anime. The sumo anime was very, very, very well done, but it's very shonen. Didn't catch Ingress. Let's see here. Anything else that kind of leapt out at me? Other fun things, but just nothing really, really shocking. Yeah, I think those were the ones that really got my attention this season. Yeah, don't recall any of those. I think these are all second seasons here, mostly. Yeah, so those kind of highlights. I'll do a big video, kind of going down all of these.
That's a lot of stuff to watch.
It was a lot of stuff to watch. We spent all Saturday just watching anime, which is a lot of fun. But all right, we've been going for an hour and a half. Thank you all so much. I think that will do it for us for tonight.
Thank you for joining.
Absolutely. There'll be no anime club tomorrow because I'll be at the con. And I apologize for not doing a lot of videos the past couple weeks and prepping for Anime USA. Should be back on a regular schedule next week. More videos coming, all the normal stuff coming along. So we should be back in regular schedule. Evan can't make it every week, so don't expect
I'm sorry, everybody.
that.
I'm just kind of a waffly person not at this point in my life, but I'm sure someday I will put syrup on those waffles, eat them, and then I'll be done.
That's a weird metaphor, but I know what you're saying. So Evan will be back, but not necessarily every week. We'll catch him as a catch can. But yeah, thank you all very much. Have a great week. Enjoy your anime. Bye.